Hello, everybody. I'm Brant Hughes, editor of Modern Rogue and still most of Scam Score Remix. I'm going to edit a Scam Score Remix for you right now. A lot of times I would live stream this, but not today. So let's get into it. This is Scam School episode 718. I already have my footage imported here. I selected everything and created a multicam source. Let it auto sync everything up, nice and easy. So let's take a look at what we got here. So I'm going to flatten this, just pull it out of that multicam. We don't need it, it's just one camera, but it's a quick and easy way to sync it up. Trim off the edges and then link those two together. Now we can get rid of that multicam. All right, a little big, shot in 4K. Let's scale that down. Good stuff. Back in the studio for this one. Let's go ahead and bump up that gain a little bit. Then we have our actual remix sequence. Let's go to effects and go ahead and link this. This is linked in an After Effects file, so that way if we ever need to change or update the text on it, we can do that quite easily. Okay, and we're still downloading I'm still downloading the episode. I have to actually rip it off of YouTube because we don't have the source files for any of this, but that'll download here in a minute. But for now, we've got this to deal with.
In 10 years of Scam School, in 10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first. Here's a super simple bar trick anybody can do, and most people will try. Here's a super simple bar trick that anybody can do. Even you, Edgar. I hope there's somebody named Edgar out there who's just like, whoa, what was that? Here's a dead simple bar challenge anybody could do, and anybody can look like a wizard.
All right, so for this preliminary process, I basically go through and I chop up all of the usable takes, and I combine them so that way later I can go through and I can just watch them immediately back to back to back.
I don't know that I have a poignant route. Talk about it in there. Do not underestimate the value of a red herring. In this case, remember the value of having a good red herring. If I were to just say you can't touch anything, then that spells out the fact that you're going to blow, and that's the answer. Choose your red herrings carefully. Yes, you don't want to say don't touch anything because people will figure out all you have to do is blow. But if you say the only thing you are allowed to touch is the cigarette, people are going to be fixated on that cigarette, which of course has nothing to do with the answer.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, we had a few better takes.
Choose your red herrings carefully. Now you don't want to say don't.
If you're just looking at the waveform, you can really pretty easily parse out which takes are usable and which takes are not. So you can see a bad start here, starts here, and it looks like it kind of trails off. This isn't long enough. This isn't long enough.
On something, right? Choose your red herrings carefully. You don't want to say you're not allowed to touch anything because then everybody. Choose your red herrings carefully. If you say don't touch anything, everybody will figure out that you just blow on it. But if you do is blow. But if you, I think it's important to pull this off.
Yeah, so we can just get rid of all that.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off.
All right. So the camera moved. That means that these are kind of isolated on their own. And we're up to the CTA portion.
Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. Dive into the whole back catalog. Because each episode is time compressed, you can learn in mere minutes what took us a decade. That's not true. Well, no, maybe it is true. Because like a year is some number of minutes. Yeah, it'll take you a year. Good luck. There's a lot.
The focus is a little weird on this.
Scam School Remix is the
I think the focus is like right behind his ear.
best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. Dive into the whole back catalog. We've time compressed them so that you don't have to hear that, Netflix has... Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. We've time compressed each episode so you learn as fast as possible. Also, you don't have to hear for the 12 billionth time that Netflix will send you DVDs by mail. We all know this. 2008 called. It wants those Scam School episodes back. That's an original joke by me. I made up that joke. Who's clever? This guy. Hey, give me a call, Netflix. And another special and a series. I'm also on the phone with Hulu and Amazon Prime and Vudu and Crackle. Sorry. So if somebody works for Crackle, they don't like this.
All right. So we've got that. We've got two CTAs to work from. We've got 2 retrospective wrap-ups to work from, and we've got 4 perspective openings. So let's go ahead and color grade this a little bit. All right, so we're gonna take a screenshot. We're going to go to Scam School episodes 718 project files resolve reference. We're gonna drop it in there. We're going to open up resolve. We're also going to find our color chart, which is probably this last one. It was sort of an afterthought. I realized that we had forgotten to grab it. So use it here a little bit. I got an up close one as well. Oh man, this lens is just super soft. I still don't really understand how color charts work. So let's go ahead and grab that, and then we'll come back here for a more naturalistic version. Yeah, sure. All right. Whatever. That's good. 718. New project. Open that up. Project files. Resolve reference. Okay, drag these in here. Let's go ahead and grab one from this to begin with. Passport video. Auto, I guess I could do Rec 709. That works just as well. Let's go ahead and get these roughly in place. And zoom in a bit. Get it really fine-tuned. Yeah, I mean, look at how soft this focus is. It's just absurd. Okay, go ahead and match it. That looks kind of gross. Just like all color charts in this studio look. Let me do one here just to see if that fares any better. The problem with doing any kind of color chart stuff in this studio is the fact that we have very bright, vibrant blue lights and very vibrant red lights clashing together. It throws any kind of color stuff way off. Yeah, looks super weird. Great. Okay, so we have a choice to make here. I think this one's a little bit closer, right? The blues are more blue and less of an indigo thing. Our video that we are remixing has finished downloading. That's great. So yeah, this is more blue. This is a little bit more purple. This is a little bit more contrasty. Skin tone looks a little bit better. Here it's a little bit flatter. Let's just stick with this for now. And we might tone this color chart down because it might end up being a little much. All right, so now I'm gonna do wheels. I'm gonna look at my scopes over here and just kind of dial it in a little bit, sort of get a taper off the excess. We're gonna curves, add back in some of the contrast that I just took out, but this way I have a little bit more control over where that contrast is applied. Label it, of course, gotta label it. Always labeling it. 50, 35, that's kind of my usual go-to, 50. This is the soft clip. This is basically just to take the black levels and rise them up in a little bit more of a natural way, and take the clipped out highlights and to make those taper off in a gradient. Soft clip. It's not super apparent here, but it would be if I did something like if I did this. I guess it's actually not super apparent there. But you can see what's going on. All right. Maybe maybe add a little bit of green back into it. Yeah, not quite this much, but something like that, maybe. Just trying to make them look a little bit less purple. Maybe some green and then a little bit of red. Or I guess yellow, red, orange. Some warmth back in. It's an imprecise science. All right, sure. I can live with that, I guess. It's fine. It's Game School Remix. All right, we're gonna go back to that resolve file. This is a Modern Rogue resolve file. Episodes 718, project files, resolve. Scam School 718, wide 01, double dash, general pass. Label everything so that way you know what it is that's doing. All right, go back to the program feed. Go ahead and apply color to it. Creative look, browse. We're going to go to that resolve file and pull out that LUT that we just made. Apply it here. It's not going to be an exact thing because resolve handles color profiles a little bit differently than Premiere, but it'll be pretty close. So yeah, like the big problem with this big red light, it makes this background look really very red, which is fine, but it kind of washes out Brian with this like overwhelming orangeness. So at least we can tone that down a little bit with the LUT. But you know, you just kind of style it to your taste. All right, let's go ahead and pull in that video we just downloaded. All right, what episode was it? 246 downloads. Let's go ahead and adjust this. Scam School 246 double dash dash. Move it in here. Okay, now we go into our remix sequence. Drop that in at the front. All right, 10.5 minutes. So let's aim to get that down to 4 minutes, and then anything below that is just great. That's going to vary depending on whatever we're teaching, though. So.
In 10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first. Here's a super simple bar trick anybody can do, and most people will try. Here's a super simple bar trick that anybody can do, even you, Edgar. I hope there's somebody named Edgar out there who just like, whoa, what was that? Here's a dead simple bar challenge anybody can do, and anybody can look like a wizard.
All right, let's go ahead and turn off resolve. It's kind of a resource hog. This one's fine, but we did something almost identical to that like a week or two ago, so I'm gonna cut that out.
10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first. Here's a super simple bar trick anybody can do, and most people will try. Here's a dead simple bar challenge anybody can do, and anybody can look like a wizard.
So I like these two. I won't decide on them yet. I will come around to that again later. So we've got two for either. Let's go ahead and do some remixing proper like.
On Scam School, it's beautiful women and a challenge you can't win. Or maybe you can. And I'm not talking about the women, I mean the puzzle. You might get dirty.
So it is worth watching through the whole episode, although there are some basic cuts that you can make on a Scam School remix. Everything up until Brian introduces the guests can all go. Anything after the guests start performing the trick can all go. Occasionally, we will use a little bit of material from Brian's wrap-up in the episode if he touches on something that wasn't explained thoroughly enough in the actual meat of the episode while he's actually teaching the trick. So it's definitely worth watching that stuff, but there's never anything up front that's super important. Also ads, if there are ads in the episode, those certainly go.
This episode of Scam School brought to you by Tokyo Flash Japan. Welcome to your encyclopedia for scams, free drinks, and general shenanigans. Scam School, the only show dedicated to social engineering at the bar and on the streets. I'm your host, Brian Brushwood, and this week we...
Oh, okay. I was like, well, that's interesting framing. This is beyond the point at which we start doing 1080 video. So let me adjust that real quick. 1920 by 1080. Yeah, Look at that. Wow. What a world we live in. It's always set to 720 because generally speaking, that's what all the old scam schools are.
This is challenge that you're going to be able to blow some minds with. It's got a clever, diabolical solution and will blow your friends away. Let's check it out.
He's saying blow a lot.
I'm going to get on this train. This is Giants! Woo!
Hey, you got the cameras out here. Hold the train.
Look at Brian. Brian, I know sports.
All right, so we have Christina, and returning we have Bella. I'm glad you came back to Scam School. And I got a challenge for you guys that honestly, you might be able to pull off. I honestly don't know if you're gonna be able to do it or not, but if you can't pull it off, I will sell you the answer for, of course, one tasty beverage. Take a pint.
Okay, so all that stuff can go. Scam Score Remix, we don't need to be introduced to the guests. We don't need Brian hedging bets with, I don't know if you'll be able to figure this out. You might be able to. That's not a terrible thing to have in the introduction of the trick if you're actually performing the trick, because they might actually figure it out. So that sort of tempers expectations. But for a Scam School Remix, we just need to see the thing. Right?
I will sell you.
We also don't need the premise of the show, because if you're watching the show, hopefully you know the premise of the show. You might not, but it becomes kind of self-evident as you keep watching, so it's fine.
Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top.
So yeah, we always start the remix right at the start of the instructions, right?
Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced on there. Now your challenge is you have to get the quarter into the pint glass, only touching the pint glass.
Okay, we can cut out challenge if we're just like really trying to make things as streamlined as possible.
And a quarter, all balanced on there. Now your challenge is you have to get the quarter into the pint glass.
It sounds like there was a cut there anyway, so not a big deal.
All balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter.
We could smooth that out a little bit. Let's cut it in, fade it.
Balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter into the pint glass.
Now we will fix this jump cut here in a second.
Glass, only touching the pint glass. If you can pull it off, I'll buy you drinks. If you get frustrated and
And we don't need that.
take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter. Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter into the pint glass.
Let's go ahead and cut some of this out.
All balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter. Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced. Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter into the pint glass, only touching the pint glass. If you can pull it off, I'll buy you drinks. If you get frustrated and annoyed, I'll pull it off for you, and maybe you could buy me a drink.
So already, we are a minute and 10 seconds more efficient.
So I can lift the glass off the table.
You can touch the grass.
You can touch the grass. Participant questions are usually good to include.
I can lift the glass off the table. I can lift the glass off the table.
You can touch the glass. You can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
And in fact,
And we can actually clean up Brian's response here a little bit.
you can touch the grass. You can touch the glass. You can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll you can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll reset.
Off the table.
You can do anything you want with
just gonna merge those sentences together.
You can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
Smooth.
I can lift the glass off the table.
You can do anything you want with the glass. Pint glass.
I can lift the glass off the
Yeah, let's go ahead and fade this as well.
Touching the pint glass.
I can lift the glass off the table.
You can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll reset it as many times as you want.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty
All
cool.
right, that was fast. All right. All right.
Oh yeah, I think one of them actually does get it to work in this. So Brian's intro, Brian's stipulation up front makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, let's just keep rolling through. Something like this, something that's like a bit of a challenge, is also for Scam Score Remix. In order for the payoff to make any sense, you kind of had to show a little bit of failed attempts as well. Even though nothing is particularly learned from them, you just can't waste too much time on that.
All right, that was fast. All right, what do you got? You want to try?
Yeah.
That was fast.
We want a little bit of build up there, but we don't want to waste a bunch of time.
That was fast. That was a good effort, though. You got it? I like that.
All right, that's too fast to really see what's going on.
So, I like that. You were going for the effort, though. I like that. You were going for the scoop.
Yes.
So a couple of words of advice on setting this up. What you want to do is set up the coaster and get the cigarette on there first. If the cigarette can't balance on its own, then that means it's been a little bent. And then the last part, here's what you want to do. Once the cigarette's set on there, you want to put your fingers, like create a little table of your 4 fingers on each corner.
Yeah.
And you just want to kind of come down and set it on there. There you go, like that. So that makes the setup easier.
Okay.
All right.
One more time.
Game's still going. Ah, nice try. What?
Okay, so I'll probably leave in this the setup advice, but right now I'm just gonna do some really basic getting rid of stuff that's nonsense. Who's the ad this week?
Okay, before we even begin, yes, I am rocking a totally normal hairstyle. See, it's a convertible. Hey, I need your attention. Just one of you normal guys. A normal guy, as opposed to a weird normal guy. The point is, if you want to look like a badass and wear a piece of art on your wrist, you need to visit our friends over at Tokyo Flash Japan. Herp derp, and then you have been complimented.
Oh man, bit of a long one, huh?
Head on over to tokyo.com/_scam school. That way they'll know that it's my recommendation that got you there looking at your sweet watches. And when you buy one, you'll end up falling in love. I already have. Then you'll be supporting Scam School and drinking it.
Okay,
so
right here.
Ish. Tokyo Flash's watches. That's what I'm saying. Now here's the thing.
Okay. Cut out 2 minutes. No problem.
All right, I'm gonna do a little prediction trick here for you because before
this
I
will
even
almost
showed up
certainly
today,
go.
I wrote Brian's prediction. I was good, but where's the safe place? Can I tuck it kind of underneath your drink there? And then the rest of the cards,
doubt
we're
he
gonna
teaches
we're
this,
gonna
right?
work together to mix these up as most as we possibly can. Sound good? So I'll tell you what. Why don't we split them? There'll be a Brian side and a Christina Bella side. Why don't we split that right about there? This is your side. This is my side. You want to shuffle those up? We'll shuffle mine up. You good at shuffling cards? I'm not. You're not? You are? Okay, all right. Oh, yeah, she's got the rifle shuffle. I'll tell you what. Now, some people might think you're manipulating cards, so I'm gonna do the domino shuffle. Las Vegas style. Yeah, you want to mix these up too. All right, now let's mix them up even more. Check this out. I'm gonna take a handful of my cards. I'm gonna flip them over. Mix them up your cards. And now you grab a bunch of your cards and flip them over to the top. There you go. We'll mix them up. In fact, I guess yeah, here. Here, throw some balls on my side. All right. Hold on. Here, I'll mix them in yours. There we go. Now, how many stuff is that? Are you good? You good? All right, here, we're gonna go. Flip. Okay. All the cards will shuffle. You shuffle them, I shuffle them. I mix them, you mix them. We took mine, flip them over, face up in yours. Yours, flip them over, face up in mine. We took yours, we'll face up in mine, flip them over, put them back in yours. And we ended up with something that looks like this. Brian's prediction says right here, there will be 23 face-up cards. How many face-up cards are there? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. But that's not all it says. It also says the face-up cards will contain 12 red cards. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Open it up again.
9, 10, 11, 12.
One more
Wait.
prediction.
Oh, there's more?
All of the black cards will be odd. Tell me if I'm right. We
Open
got
it up one
ace
last
is odd,
time.
9, 7. Keep on going.
8, 5, 1, 3.
What's the
7.
final prediction?
Right. There's a 6. But the prediction says, except for the 6 of spades.
Very nice. Thanks, my dear. Well done.
He's a
All right, you guys
wizard.
are awesome. It was fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. If he doesn't teach it, we're not going to show it.
Now this one's sort of a funny week because we gave you a
Oh, that was kind of a nice little fade in. Little
Now this
blur.
one's sort of a funny week because we gave you a payoff without any of the setup. I figure after 200 plus episodes, by now you guys should be able to figure out the right way to set things up for this. And keep in mind, every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you gotta be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam. Speaking of which, I wanna hear about your success stories. So hit me up with
So this might actually be worth reiterating.
these scam school effects. Somebody might accidentally Every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do,
Whew, I cut out a lot. Hey, we're at 4 minutes. I think we'll come in under 4 minutes, all told.
speaking of which, I want to hear about your success stories. So hit me up over Twitter at twitter.com/wood.
Google Plus?
Over at twitter.com/scamschool. If you want to suggest
Okay,
your
this
favorite
is
bar
before
scam,
Google
write me
Plus.
directly at brian@division3.com. And don't forget to join us next week because we're going to be shooting Scam School the movie. It's going to involve explosions and booze and chicks. It'll be pretty much like a regular episode of Scam School.
You remember outros? That was a while back. What is going on here? What is happening to this background? This is very disorienting. I do not like that one bit. That seems like that's not how it was supposed to look. Okay, so let's cut that out. And let me just double check that over here, Brian doesn't specifically mention 2 tricks, because if he mentions 2 tricks, then that means I have to add that performance back in.
In 10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever
Single.
taught. Most people, it's their first. Here's a dead simple bar challenge anybody could do, and anybody could look like a wizard.
Great. And actually, let's watch through this to see if he mentions, hey, sometimes people are going to figure it out, so, you know, be cool.
Choose your red herrings carefully. Yes, you don't want to say don't touch anything because people will
right.
figure out all you have to do is blow.
This
But
is more
if you
about
say
a tip
the only
of
thing you are
misdirection.
allowed to touch is the cigarette, people are going to be fixated on that cigarette, which of course has nothing to do with the answer. Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off.
Okay. There's a lot more information in that second one, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of that first take right now. So yeah, that kind of rides the line with whether we include this or not. But neither here nor there. We'll come to terms with that in a bit.
Like that, you were going for the scoop.
Yes.
So a couple of words of advice on setting this up. A couple of words of advice on setting this up. What you want to do is set up the coaster and get the
Okay, gotta fade that so it's a little bit more natural.
on setting this up. Set up the coaster and get the cigarette on there first. If the cigarette on there first. If the cigarette can't balance on its own, then that means it's been a little bent. And then the last part, here's what you want to do. Once the cigarette's set on there,
Brian used to be kind of bad about that. a lot of phrases like, "Here's what you want to do. This is what I want from you." It was like it was always this preamble of, I have to say something to say that I'm about to say something,
Here's what you want to do. One,
instead of just saying the thing. I feel like he's a lot better at that now. But we always cut that kind of stuff out of Scam Score Remix. Doesn't serve it any purpose.
balance on its own, that means it's been a little bent. Once the cigarette's set on there, that means it's been a little bent.
Can we dial this all the way back? That would be great. Yes. All right, so that'll just make it a little bit of a smoother transition.
Cigarette can't balance on its own, that means it's been a little bent. Once the cigarette's set on there, you want to put your fingers, like create a little table. It's set on there. You want to put your fingers, like create a little table of your 4 fingers on each corner.
Yeah.
And you just want to kind of come down and set it on there. There you go, like
Okay.
table of your 4 fingers on each corner.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, this should dial all the way back. Oh, so close.
A little table of your 4 fingers on each corner.
Yeah.
And you just want to kind of come down and set it on there.
Okay, we could take out that yeah.
Corner.
Yeah.
And you just want to kind of come down and set it on there. There you go, like
And that'll give us more than enough room.
a little table of your 4 fingers on table of your 4 fingers.
Okay, if we dial this a little bit even further back for a J cut, that'll just help it even better, because when the visuals and the audio cuts at the same time, it can be a little bit more jarring than if they're staggered.
Create a little table of your 4 fingers on each corner. And
Right, you basically don't even notice the audio cut when the video cut's separate.
like create a little table of your 4 fingers on each corner. And you just want to kind of come down and set it on there. There you go, like that. So that
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. That was a great transition. I'm very proud of myself.
makes the setup easier.
Okay.
All right,
One more time.
game's still going. Setup easier.
Okay.
All right,
One more time.
game's still going.
We can leave in one more time.
One more time.
Game's still going. Ah, nice try. What?
All right, so I'm not going to cut this, but what I will do is I will speed this up to 200%. Oh. I want her actual movements to be 100% speed, but 200% in the pause leading up to it, and then leave the audio untouched, because if the audio is sped up 200%, you'll definitely notice. But with the video, you'll notice that this is really fast if you're paying attention, but otherwise, not so much.
Ah, nice try. What?
Yeah, that's a relatively seamless.
Ah, nice try. What? That was good. Very good, very good. All right, now can she get it? Now, it looked like Bella's technique was to thrust up and then have time to scoop it up and grab it.
I noticed it.
All right.
I'm about to try it too.
Ah! All right, All right, I'll tell you what, Christina.
Yes.
And you'll like this. Here's a technique that is 100% surefire. You'll always be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill. Do you want to learn it?
Yes.
Well, there's no skill. Do you want to learn it?
Yes.
Well, then let's thank our sponsor.
Okay.
Ah! All right, I'll tell you what, Christina. Here's a technique that is 100% surefire. You'll always be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill. Now, here's the thing.
Now here's the thing. See, like a little bit more preamble. Like, just tell me the thing, man.
There's no skill. Now,
Skill.
no skill. Now, here.
Okay. So now we're gonna finally take this. Boom, 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 boom. Psh. We're gonna insert this here. Dial this back.
Be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill.
Let's go ahead and add a quick little fade here.
in there, and it requires no skill. Now here's the thing. This is one that
Tell me the thing, Brian. What's the thing? So we're down to 242. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And we've still got the whole explanation to cut down a little bit.
This is one that I've seen kicking around for a while, and I always hated it because the rules that were set up were too impossible. They were so impossible that it sort of told everyone what the real answer was. So I actually changed them to present it to you guys, and I honestly didn't know if you'd be able to pull it off, and I was impressed, Bella, that you were able to do it.
Good job, my dear. Good job.
So what I'm going to encourage the folks at home to do is try to evaluate your friends and figure out the right kind of setup for this trick. Because in my case, I said you can only touch the glass. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette and the quarter, but not the coaster.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that. I think if you're telling a big story, this all makes sense. This kind of this narrative that he's telling, but I think for explaining the trick, that's not super necessary, especially when he goes on for this part.
In my case, I said you can only touch the glass. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette and the quarter, but not the coaster. It doesn't matter, because anything you say you can touch is a red herring. The real solution, the one that works every time, is the one where you don't touch anything, where you just go under and you go. It lands right inside.
Good job.
You like that?
Yes.
Right on.
I'm not gonna try it though.
Try it. Right on.
I'm not gonna try it though.
Try it. Come on. Try it. You gotta get up real close and give it a good burst. Big percussive blast. Big go. Yeah!
Hey, usually we don't show the guest performing, but I think in this case it's such a quick and easy thing to show off because it's really just the end effect and there's no like setup on the behalf of the guest, and that Brian's scream gives us a good cutting point, although it's a little undercut if we keep this in.
Yeah! Well done! Awesome! All right, I'm gonna do a little. Every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off, and when you do, you gotta be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Yeah, that might, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that might actually be a bit redundant with this wrap up. So let's dial it back. And let's decide on an intro.
In 10 years of doing scam school, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first. Here's a dead simple bar challenge anybody could do, and anybody can look like a wizard. Scam school, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first.
I think I like this. I think this is a little bit more accurate. Okay. So, for the audio, what I'm doing is I'm cutting up this audio. I've got a macro keypad here. Whenever I hit a button, it'll basically, whatever I have selected, it will hit G, which brings up the audio gain, sets it to normalize all peaks, and then I'll do -4 decibels. Boop, and enter.
In 10 years of doing scam school, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first.
Okay, so it's a little too much there. So let's dial it back 5 decibel and then fade it. Where's this one at? Okay, yeah.
Ever taught. Most people, it's their first.
I can live with that probably.
Easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first. Bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first.
Most people, it's their first is kind of a weird phrase. Whoops, just deleted it. Cool. We've got a Scam School Remix billboard thing here, or domain billboard. We can get rid of that. Okay. take this whole thing, get a little bit of breathing room, slide this into its place, double this back, take the lower third, extend it all the way across, and let's look at the timing. We might have to cut off a little bit off the back end.
Scam School Remix. In 10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single...
A little choppy. Let's try again.
Scam School Remix. In 10 years of doing Scam School, this might be the single easiest bar trick we've ever taught. Most people, it's their first.
Take a pint glass and a
I think that works fine. It seems a little bit more rushed than it will be because this just cuts over, whereas once we're done with it, it will transition over instead of cutting. But that's fine. Okay. Let's dial everything back. Just a couple of minutes, though, because it's a relatively quick remix. Okay. Then we've got this guy right here. And then we have 2 CTAs to choose from. Let's see if we can narrow down the CTAs right now.
Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. Dive into the whole back catalog. Because each episode is time compressed, you can learn in mere minutes what took us a decade. That's not true. Well, no, maybe it is true. Because like a year is some number of minutes. Yeah, it'll take you a year. Good luck. There's a lot. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. We've time compressed each episode so you learn as fast as possible. Also, you don't have to hear for the 12 billionth time that Netflix will send you DVDs by mail. We all know this. 2008 called. It wants those Scam School episodes back. That's an original joke by me.
I definitely like that second take a bit better. There's a lot more character to it. And it's funny because it's true. Okay, so let's slide that back. Now we have this music to deal with. We're gonna square it up with the end of the remix portion.
Hold that off. Scams.
We don't do this cut because it's too similar, right? It just like slid over a little bit. So we're going to do basically a zoom cut. So this is going to be punched in a bit. Let's do 75% or something. Let's try to get this relatively down the middle. And then it cuts with a zoom out. And then it looks more natural.
There's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the...
Yeah. Because now it's a little to the left. Brian's a little to the left, but also zoomed way out. This might also have to go up a little bit. Really dial it in. Okay. So let's take a look at how this feels back to back to back to back.
Choose your red herrings.
here, then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. We've time compressed each episode so you learn as fast as possible. Also, you don't have to hear for the 12 billionth time that Netflix will send you DVDs by mail. We all know this. 2008 called. It wants those Scam School episodes back. That's an original joke by me.
Not bad, not bad. We might have to tighten this up a little bit.
No chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix.
Yeah. Just trim it up.
Virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 5...
It's fine. It's maybe a tiny bit rushed, but I don't mind that too much. So let's go ahead and get this audio sort of situated. All right, set to -4 decibels.
Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. We've time compressed each episode so you learn as fast as possible. Also, you don't have to hear for the 12 billionth time that Netflix will send you DVDs by mail. We all know this. 2008 called. It wants those Scam School episodes back. That's an original joke by me.
Let's actually dial this back a couple frames.
That's an original joke by me.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, audio cleanup here. Don't have to worry about an ad. We don't have an ad this week. Otherwise, it would go in this slot. And typically, we would do, if that were the case, we would do, you know, a full wide, like that here, and then for the ad, we would punch in like that, and then we would go to the wide off center for the CTA. Okay. Select all these, normalize. Maybe take this and bump it up a little bit.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best.
All right, great. Let's watch through the remix to see if that all sits well, or if we have any adjustments to make here as well.
Take a pint glass and a coaster, and on top of the coaster, we'll place a cigarette and a quarter, all balanced on there. Now you have to get the quarter into the pint glass, only touching the pint glass.
I can lift the glass off the table.
You can do anything you want with the glass.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll reset it as many times as you want. All right, that was fast. Oh, that was a good effort, though. Ah, I like that. You were going for the scoop. A couple of words of advice on setting this up. Set up the coaster and get the cigarette on there first. If the cigarette can't balance on its own, then that means it's been a little bent. Once the cigarette's set on there, you want to put your fingers, like create a little table of your 4 fingers on each corner, and you just want to kind of come down and set it on there. There you go, like that. So that makes the setup easier.
One more time.
Game's still going. Ah, nice try. What? That was good. Very good, very good. All right, now can she get it? Ah! All right, I'll tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100% surefire. You'll always be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill. In my...
Just a quick thing.
All right, now can she get it? Ah! All right, I'll tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100% sure.
Go ahead and trim that up a little bit, and then we can do this. And it might just feel a little bit more natural than the hard cut.
Tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100%.
Although it is a very fast cut. This lasts what, a second and a half? 1 second.
I'll tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100% sure, Christina.
Let's give this a little bit more breathing room.
All right, I'll tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100%.
That feels better, for sure.
I'll tell you what, Christina. There's a technique that is 100% surefire. You'll always be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill.
I mean, it's still fast. Hey, what happened? What happened to my? I did a fade on this. You all saw it. I did a fade right here. What nonsense is that? I did a fade.
skill.
I did the fade.
There's no skill. There's no skill.
I do not like this. He transitions into saying something else very quickly, and so he kind of blends the words together in skill. So skill is very harsh and abrupt.
No skill.
But I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it right now.
Be able to get it in there, and it requires no skill. In my case, I said you can only touch the glass. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette and the quarter, but not the coaster. It doesn't matter, because anything you say you can touch is a red herring. The real solution, the one that works every time, is the one where you don't touch anything, where you just go under and you go. It lands right inside.
Good job.
You like that?
Yes.
They go, yeah! Well, every time
Okay.
Yes.
they go,
Let's go ahead and fade this.
Yes.
they go,
Yes.
they go, yeah!
Yes.
They go, yeah! Well, every time. Every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might solution. The one that works every time is the one where you don't touch anything, where you just go under and you go. It lands right inside.
Good job.
You like that?
Yes.
They go, yeah! Every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you got to be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam. Next scam.
Okay. So I'm going to watch this last bit again and see how it plays rolling into this retrospective to see if it feels particularly redundant.
The cigarette. You could just as easily say you can only touch the cigarette and the quarter, but not the coaster. It doesn't matter, because anything you say you can touch is a red herring. The real solution, the one that works every time, is the one where you don't touch anything, where you just go under and you go. It lands right inside.
Good job.
You like that?
Yes.
They go, yeah! Every time you do one of these scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you got to be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10.
It's interesting because it is different advice, right? This one is, the one from the episode is saying, you know, hey, this isn't always going to work 100% of the time, and you just have to deal with it in a graceful way. This advice is consider all of the options at your disposal, because the failure here could have been avoided. And so they are different advice, but they are very much done in the same like tone of delivery.
Scam school effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you got to be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something.
Be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out.
I do think the more that I'm watching it, the more that it feels maybe not redundant, but just kind of awkward. Right, it's sort of clashing. It's like old Brian is giving you advice, and then new Brian is giving you other advice. Like, don't worry about that. Here's the real advice.
Yeah! Every time you do one of these Scam School effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you got to be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 5.
Did I cut off him saying off?
They would have pulled that off. Scam School pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of.
I think I'll leave it in. Because I think they're both like really important points when it comes to an episode like this.
You like that?
Yes.
They go, yeah! Every time you do one of these Scam School effects, somebody might accidentally pull it off. And when you do, you got to be gracious, give them a beer, and then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something that they're allowed to touch, although they don't have to in order to pull this off. But it should be something that makes it impossible for them to actually pull off a win. In this case, I told people they could touch the pint glass. That didn't work out so well because somebody could throw up the coin and then catch it. But if I had told them the cigarette, then there's virtually no chance they would have pulled that off. Scam School Remix is the best of 10 years and 500 plus episodes of Scam School. We've time compressed each episode so you learn as fast as possible. Also, you don't have to hear for the 12 billionth time that.
Yeah, I'll leave it in. I was a bit back and forth on it, but I feel like now I have decided on leaving it in, even though it's a little inelegant. I think the stated advice there is kind of too important to leave out. Okay, so kind of final stretch here. We go over to our After Effects file. Click on Remix In folder. Go ahead and grab this multicam enable, multicam flatten. So that way it pulls this this remix clip out of the remix multicam sequence. Although I think that'll be a little bit less necessary, but it cleans it up when you right click and replace with After Effects composition. Otherwise, it'll import it as a nested sequence in here, and then it'll bring in like all of your audio and all of your video clips that are used in that sequence. It's a whole thing. So we're just gonna take the transition mat, put it on top, alpha mat, bloop, done. Great, good stuff. Since it's 1080, we don't have sometimes when you have 720 files and you import them and scale them up, sometimes there's a little bit of a blurry edge, so you can kind of see behind it. Not so much the case here because this is a 1080 file imported into 1080 sequence. So we should be good. Let's go ahead and click on Remix Out. So to see it in motion.
People, it's their first.
Take a pint glass and
People, it's their first.
take a pint glass and a coaster.
That works fine. I could probably tighten it up a couple frames, but I'm not going to bother. Okay. Let's go ahead and dial this back. One more, and then drive that back. Same thing, multicam enable, multicam flatten. Go ahead and replace with After Effects comp. Great, loving it. Doing great. Transition mat on top. Track mat, alpha invert. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Great. It's everything I could have ever dreamed.
Next scam.
Choose your red herrings.
Then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully. You do want to give them something.
Yeah, I think that works fine. Music is synced fine.
Just give 'em a
Pacing is
beer,
good.
Then move on to the next scam.
Choose your red herrings carefully.
Music maybe comes in a little early, but it's not a big complaint. Outro stuff looks good. We don't have any funky cuts or anything. We don't have any on-screen graphics. No tosses to the website or anything like that. Everything over here looks good. Transition in looks good. The remix is plenty fine, and that's an episode right there. Boom. Let's clean this up a little bit. Throw that into effects, and there you go. I can actually get rid of these. They're all footage for later Scam School remixes. Not this one. 2-minute, 45-second episode. That is how that pans out. For the thumbnail for Scam School Remix, we almost always do. Here, let's turn that off with Shift S. It turns off audio scrubbing. Something I clicked accidentally very often and didn't realize that I was doing that. So for thumbnails, we usually do like, frame grabs from the episode. A lot of times it's like detail shots, because especially a lot of the older Scam Schools, they weren't particularly visible or visual. So you had to get a little creative with what kind of stuff you used. But an episode like this, there's plenty to work with. Just getting a lot to work from.
So that makes the setup.
That's nice and simple. What we aim for in the thumbnail is for it to be obvious when you see the thumbnail that you remember the trick. Now, ultimately, we would do something like this if we wanted you to really remember it, but it spoils the technique. So that's kind of out of the question. I mean, we could do something like this, but I think that's far less visual than some of our alternatives. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Photoshop. I guess we could go ahead and render this. Now, if you've seen any of the previous Scam School Remix edits, you will remember that we used to have to do like 3 different distinct renders. We would do a YouTube render and a test tube render and an AR render. All of that's gone now, thankfully. It was a real hassle. A couple of you might remember one week where I accidentally uploaded a Scam School remix with no audio for the entire Scam School remix. And that's because I rendered them out. I checked the AR version and it was totally fine. But the YouTube version was totally not fine. And I didn't want to sit down and watch the exact same episode 2 or 3 times in a row. So I saw one was fine and I just kept going. My bad. But that's not a concern now. Now I think Scam School isn't on test tube at all, and I think the AR feed is populated by, I think they do something with the YouTube feed for that, if at all. Right. So it's not really a going concern, which is very convenient for me. Okay, thumbnails. Yeah, remix, PNG. Great, loving it. Looking good. Scam School episodes, remix, thumbnails. Just take all these, drag and drop them in. Keep hitting enter until we're good. Add this on top. I accidentally forgot the tag a couple months ago. on one episode. Okay, so now we just kind of scan through. Like I said, that's kind of a bottom contender. We're looking at seeing what works here visually. I do like that. I like that more than that. Oh, weird. They like color graded this differently, I think. Huh. We've got these. I think that one works pretty well as well. So to me, I feel like it's a contender between these. I mean, anytime you're gonna show cigarettes, it's gonna be a little bit more contentious. But I think that's gonna make the more provocative image here. So I feel like this is a little bit more indicative of the episode itself. But I think this might be more striking. Let's go ahead and scale this up to see how it looks just a little bit more dead on. Actually, good point. Let's see what the thumbnail is on this. Because whatever the thumbnail, if one of those two is featured as the thumbnail on that, then okay. They used one that I eliminated pretty early on, and they did the fun YouTube thing of let's just have cutouts of people on it, because that makes better click-through rates. But we don't really do that on Scam School Remix, just because I don't like that very much. So I either one is fair game here. Oh, I'm so indecisive. I feel like there's a real simplicity to this, which I appreciate. I do kind of like this lower angle, more like profile view. And Brian's shirt gives the scene a little bit of color, as well as the painted fingernails. Pardon me. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one because I think here it looks very simple, which I think it can be effective. But here it almost looks like it looks like something a little bit more mysterious is going on because there are multiple of these setups. So to me, I think there's just something a little bit more like compelling and interesting about what is going on here, kind of thing. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I usually don't group these up, but this time I will, for your sake. Okay, so we're gonna duplicate this. We're gonna go ahead and rasterize. And then we're gonna jump in here and try to clone out this Rev3 logo. Let's see how easily we can do that without putting in any effort. Oh yeah, that looks real gross. Let's go ahead and do maybe the, here we go, clone stamp. Let's bring this down a bit, go ahead and sample here. It's all pretty much the same color until it gets to here. Well, not really, but you know. Okay, maybe now it'll give me a little bit cleaner results. Sure. I'll buy that that's like a fold in the shirt or something. Oh. Okay, yeah. I mean, that looks kind of bad, but nobody's going to pay attention to that. That's fine. Convert to smart object, so before and after. Yeah, that looks really bad. But whatever. It's not really a big deal. Let's go ahead and get exposure X going, although it doesn't really need much. So whatever I apply, I would like to be kind of subtle. I like applying some film grain because it helps even out some of the artifacting, right? You can see here. Is there some way I can just turn this off for now? Well, anyway, you can see like right in this area, there's some really nasty, kind of gross, compression artifacting in that bokeh. So let's get something going here. I wish I could do every thumbnail in black and white, but that's not very realistic to expect that to be good business practice. Okay, I say let's go with what we've got and then maybe tone it down a touch. Okay. Maybe add a little bit of blue. Red, maybe drop the shadow a tiny bit. Yeah, that helped even it out some. So it wasn't just like a lot of red shadow. Let's drop this down some. Okay. Just seeing if anything's worth messing around with. Blue. We can really get it to just the right amount of blue. Which I feel like Brian's shirt is so blue here that we do have to desaturate it some. Just to keep it nice and relatively natural. This maybe we boost up a tiny bit, if only because there's a little bit of cyan in the reflections in the glasses. It'd be kind of nice to retain some color in that. Just nothing too overt. So this is mostly in the wall here, but there is a little bit of green in the glass and back behind them. So I'm actually going to desaturate this a bit because it kind of just looks like a spill from the light. Like maybe some of the lights have a bit of a green cast to them. So I'll desaturate it, but not completely, you know. Leave a light impression of it. Okay, so a lot of this is really just following your eye, seeing what stands out to you, what works, what doesn't. You just kind of got to go with your gut. Wow, this mostly just affects the cigarette, huh? And I guess the edge of the fingers as well. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a little bit of a saturation boost there. 6. This one I'm probably gonna keep pretty middle of the road. Shadow. So that's where the bulk of this image is gonna lie. Yeah, so this it looks fairly natural. The fact that we're compressing these dark areas helps accentuate these brighter areas because there's less detail here, which is good because there's less reason to pay attention to this area when we should be paying attention dead center. Okay, focus. Let's pull the focus. Let's pull the sharpen down quite a bit, but maybe keep a little bit of it still there. Great, love it. Sure, that's fine. And that's that. Oh. Scam Square Remix tag. Oh yeah, didn't even really have to clone this out because it's totally covered up by the tag. But we did, so that way in case we need a clean version of this image, then we're good. But we still use that for now. Go ahead and save this Scam School episode 718 thumbnails. Scam School 718-thumbnail 720. Then we save it out as a JPEG in 720p. Okay, great. And then that's that. That's that. Now I guess all that's left to do is to I guess I didn't render this, did I? I should have rendered this while we were doing that. Let's go to Scam School episode 718 exports. YouTube 01. Match source, that's fine. Maximum depth. Great, love it. 8 to 12 for for Modern Rogue we do 12 to 15, but for Scam School Remix 8 to 12 is just fine. Turn that off. Maximum render quality. Use previews. Sure. Export. And that kind of goes for a second, and then we just upload that to YouTube. I come up with a title. Usually I kind of, I don't know. I just improvise that. Sometimes I take the original title and make it less outrageous. And sometimes I just wing it, and then Brian comes in and cleans it up. And then we use the thumbnail. Tags are pretty standard. Nothing super exciting to see there. So I guess with that, I'm gonna call it a day. That was what, an hour and a half? A little under an hour and a half. Not bad for a Scam School Remix. That's about as quick as a Scam School Remix goes. I feel like on the long end, you might get a Scam School Remix that goes like 6 hours or something like that. Now, of course, you didn't see like moving files back and forth before I started this recording. Setting up the template and stuff, but that's just, it takes up a little bit of time, but it's just kind of boring, right? Nothing terribly fun or creative about that. Thanks for watching. I guess I'm gonna do the CTA thing where there's the video clip and there's a video clip. I don't know. Bye.